none of these are like productive and efficient from a capitalist, pushy sort of way. But that's not what this chakra is about. It is about flow. It is about permission to be quote unquote inefficient. It is about permission to be quote unquote unproductive. Welcome to the Glow Up Revolution podcast, a podcast for overgivers, overachievers, and the strong ones in the room. We discuss everything from neuroscience-based burnout prevention to magic spells we can cast for upcoming job opportunities and everything in between. Welcome. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Hey there, welcome back to the Glow Up Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Megan Winkler, and today we are in part 2 of our 7-part series on the chakras, and we are talking about the sacral chakra. So I like to start these episodes off with a little bit of a question just to kind of get the juices flowing. And so without shame, without judgment, without any sort of self-criticism, I would just like you to think about this question for a moment. When's the last time you made something just because you wanted to? You didn't make it for content or for a launch or for any sort of need to perform, but just because some part of you wanted to see it exist in the world. And my friend, if it took you a moment to think about that, then we may need to talk about your sacral chakra. So let's get into it. As a quick reminder, these episodes are standalone. You can listen to them in any order. You can come back and listen to them if you want. I am doing them in order, however. So last episode was root chakra, and next one will be solar plexus chakra. And again, this is not about diagnosing anything because we do get into some of the physical manifestations of an imbalance. And so I don't want you to use my podcast as a coach and not a therapist and not a doctor to diagnose anything. However, if you're already having issues in that area of your body and you've seen a therapist or a medical professional and you're working on it, then this is great to support that as kind of an energetic way of healing as well. Because I am, among other things, a Reiki master. So I know a lot about the energy healing side of things. So if we are kind of looking at the root chakra and root says, I am safe, the sacral chakra kind of asks an interesting question that is very similar. It asks, am I allowed to want things? There's a little bit of avoidance in that as well. It's like, oh, am I allowed to want things? Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. And we're going to get into that, so don't worry. The sacral chakra sits just below the navel. It's about 2 inches in. That's probably a good approximation of where it's at. It's at the level of your pelvis or maybe like the tops of your hip bones, depending on how you're built. And in Sanskrit, it's Svadhisthana, which I always want to mangle. But what that word actually means is the sa means self and adhisthana means dwelling place. So it really is the dwelling place of the self. And this is the seat of the self, like how the self feels, the self creates and desires. And of course, we talk about the self with kind of a capital S as a larger part of the whole. And also in Sanskrit, in yoga, in Ayurvedic traditions, that is the seat of the self, the dwelling place of the self. The sacral chakra is also associated with water, which makes total sense, right? So water flows, so does the sacral chakra. So it's emotional flow, creative flow, sexual energy, pleasure, adaptability, your relationship to change. All of the flowing vibes. It is the color orange, and it's interestingly associated with the sense of taste. So there you go. So the sacral is about feeling good while you're existing, right? So we talked about the root chakra as kind of like, this is whether or not you're allowed to exist in the world. Are you grounded? Are your basic needs taken care of? And then the sacral chakra, the next one up, is kind of like, can I feel good while I do this? Like, is that allowed? Because for a lot of us women, we've either been in survival mode for a long time, so pleasure took a back seat to our actual needs, Or we have been conditioned that something about our pleasure is actually wrong or selfish or sinful or fill in a word there, right? And if we're in kind of a continual prove it mode and people pleasing mode, we're really ignoring this chakra and this part of our energetic body. So just like the root chakra and with all of the chakras, you'll see this pattern that we can have kind of deficient energy. I always talk about that being closed, excessive energy. I always talk about that being wide open because that's not good either, right? And then we're going to talk about physicality and the ways it shows up kind of in your daily life. Okay, so a deficient sacral, so when your sacral chakra is closed or very like only open just a little bitty bit, you could be experiencing things like creative block, so writer's block, artist block. You could be experiencing emotional numbness. You could be feeling some guilt around pleasure or rest. You could be also experiencing some low libido. Again, get the blood test. That could also be your hormones. But if you're doing something to support the sacral chakra, you're at least taking care of the energetic side of it, right? It can also show up as rigidity and like really trying to control things and kind of this sense that joy is something you'll get to later on. Like we'll do that later. Once I'm done with all of this work, once I get my to-do list cleared, then I can do this. On the flip side of things, excessive chakra can lead to some emotional volatility. So, oh my gosh, just a lot of big emotions, right? It could be that you are using pleasure as some sort of distraction or coping mechanism to avoid feeling something else. It could be an over-attachment to people or outcomes or situations. And it could even also be kind of addictive patterns around comfort. Again, not a therapist, I'm a coach, but something to think about. So physically, yogic and Ayurvedic practitioners have always said that this corresponds to issues with the lower back and hip, so tightness, soreness. It corresponds to reproductive or even digestive issues, because if you think about it, it's 2 inches below your navel. And so that's where your reproductive organs, at least the inside parts, are going to be. That's where your intestines are, all of that. Also, there's the belief that an imbalance in your sacral chakra can lead to chronic fatigue that doesn't respond to rest. Okay. So in your daily life, and sometimes this is a little easier to pinpoint before it gets to the point of showing up in your physical body, is like everything just feels like a task. And this even includes the things that used to feel like playtime and enjoyment. You can't remember your own creative preferences sometimes because you haven't been asked in years and you haven't asked yourself in years. Okay, so if this is feeling really familiar, that's okay. We've got you. We always go in these like energetic ups and downs, right? So sometimes you can feel like you're on the top of the world, and then other times you feel really low and you feel flat. You just feel bleh. Okay, it doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It's just part of the human condition, right? And if you feel like, I don't even know what I'd make if no one was watching, I encourage you to ask what your 10-year-old self would make if no one was watching. And it could be something as simple as coloring in a coloring book or doing like a cross stitch thing. I used to do little cross stitch patterns and designs at my grandma's house. And like that was really enjoyable because we'd sit around and we'd like chat and we would watch Days of Our Lives. And I tell you what, Days of Our Lives in the late 80s, early 90s, chef's kiss. Oh my God. So, it's like, what would your 10-year-old self want to do? Or what would your 13 or 16-year-old self want to do? Maybe you were one of those kids that in high school, you were in all the art classes, even though you couldn't make a career out of it. I'm making like very lazy bunny ears because there's plenty of people that make careers who are artists. But like, what did you love doing? If you loved being in theater, there are community theaters that you could go to and you could express your creativity that way. If you were in dance classes and really enjoyed that, that's something else to do. Okay. So ask yourself what a younger version of you would create or participate in if no one was watching or there was not any sort of income goal attached to it. It wasn't for your business. It wasn't for your career. It wasn't for your family. It was just for yourself. Okay. So what is really interesting as well about the sacral chakra is that it really responds well to invitation and curiosity and unstructured creative time. So not having a goal, not having any sort of outcome, no post at the end of it, right? So it can be something as simple as coloring or doodling or humming your favorite song or even like rearranging your furniture. Sometimes that's just what you need, just to do something for fun. Like, oh, this feels stagnant. Let's just rearrange things, right? It also responds well to any sort of water contact. So drinking your water, make sure you drink your water, babes. But also baths, showers, swimming, going out in the rain, sitting near water, having a water feature in your office. Because when you are really needing to get into the creative flow, it is so helpful to have the element that flows, water, right there. You can also eat orange foods, so citrus, mango, sweet potato, carrots. Carrots do those double duties, as do sweet potato, of both the sacral and the root chakra. And these are just small sensory reminders of this energy center. You could do like orange juice. You could, I love a peach because that's orange color. There's lots of orange foods that you could eat. Like an orange bell pepper is so yummy. They're so sweet. Love them so much. Another thing you can do is nice hip opening movement, right? So whether that's dance, especially if it's unchoreographed, like it's just you and Beyonce in your house doing your thing. Gentle hip circle stretching. If you're into it and you have a hula hoop would be good. Or doing some yoga positions or somatic workouts where you're opening your hips. That really helps as well. And then sensory pleasure without any sort of productivity attached to it, right? So wearing your favorite scent, indulging in like your favorite texture. Like some people like a really soft, fuzzy blanket. Other people really love to wear flowy fabrics. Whatever works for you. Food that you enjoy, music you enjoy listening to. And not like in a passive way, but in like an active, really listening to it, really indulging in it. Going to an art museum, for instance, and really engaging with the art, and maybe even taking your journal with you and just kind of writing about your feelings about the art or a poem that is inspired by something, right? So none of these are like productive and efficient from a capitalist, pushy sort of way. But that's not what this chakra is about. It is about flow. It is about permission to be quote unquote inefficient. It is about permission to be quote unquote unproductive in the world's eyes. Because I tell you what, one of the most productive things we can do for ourselves as human beings first, and in our careers, businesses, family life, etc., is to be creative, is to practice creativity. Okay. And then there are, of course, balancing practices. So as you know, I'm going to always recommend Reiki, right? So lower belly and pelvis, again, your Reiki healer will be able to tap in, see where that's at. And no matter what, even if it doesn't come across to them as, oh, there's something out of whack with the sacral chakra, that energy is going to go exactly where it needs to. Okay. So if you're experiencing like numbness, you know, pain, you know, all these things, and especially if you've had those already checked out, but you're telling your Reiki practitioner this, like they can really focus on that area as well, right? Another thing is, again, that free form dance, that free form movement, just let your body do its thing. Journaling on desire specifically. Okay, so we journal a lot. If you're like me, we journal goals, we journal social media ideas, we journal business ideas, we journal gratitude. So this is specific to your actual wants without any sort of editing to them because nobody's going to see this. So sit in the corner if you need to, sit in like the corner of your couch if you need to, some way that you feel like nobody could look over your shoulder, right? Because there's even this sense of like when we're alone that somebody's going to be able to peek over your shoulder and going to judge you for it. Not true. Not true. So don't edit your desires, just write them down. And please, 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 if you feel like they're too much or they're impractical, really write them down. Like underline them with a different color ink because those are the ones that are your true desires. And your logical mind is just kind of getting in the way there. And it happens. So crystals and stones that can help. Anything, again, orange, anything that resonates with the element of water or the moon. So carnelian, orange calcite. I love moonstone as well because moonstone flows with the moon. Water rituals as well can really help. So ritual baths, even if you are just imagining in a meditation space, standing in a waterfall and letting that water just kind of flow over you can really help. Okay. So in your business and your career, this is how it can show up, how like a sacral chakra imbalance can appear business wise for you. Okay. So a lot of businesses kind of get built from our heads. Okay. And we set forth a foundation, which is great. And our root chakra is very happy about it as business owners. So we have safety in the system and all of that. And like we know the offer works. But you have to make sure as well that yes, your offer works and it's something that your people want. And it's something that you want to be in because you are going to be selling it. You are going to be delivering it. You're going to be talking about it and marketing it, all of that. And if you're not feeling aliveness around that, it could suggest that that energy is just not there. Okay. Because if you are aligning your business with the sacral energy, the business, the offer itself needs to also be a creative act, not just something you deliver. Okay. There needs to be a little bit of room to change because if you get bored, you need to be able to pivot just slightly to change things up. Okay. And the question of what do I actually want to make right now is a really important one to be asking yourself from a energetic strategy point of view. Okay. Now, in all of this, we do not abandon structure. We do not throw out the baby with the bathwater. We do not completely revamp branding. We do not say, oh, well, I'm not going to make this offer anymore. No, 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 no. We have the foundation in place. We are going to then pivot a little bit. I always like to use the image of a bowling alley and you have the bowling lane and you can put the bumpers in there, right? So if you're the bowling ball and your structure and foundation are the bumpers, you're not going to go into the gutter, but you may kind of zigzag around and go towards the pins. Okay. So if you feel like your offer feels flat, it feels lack of creativity, sometimes it helps to have somebody come into your business and help you kind of breathe more life into it and tap back into your creativity around that. So that might be something you need. So don't throw things away, especially if you've sold those offers before. You just need a little refresh. Okay. And the great thing is you don't have to have an answer today. I just want you to get curious about all of this. Okay. So you ask yourself, where did you stop letting your work be creative because creativity felt unserious or unproductive, or it didn't feel like it was going to earn you money. And journal about that. Curious, curious, curious. No judgment, full of compassion. Okay? So next week, we're going to move on to the solar plexus, which is the seat of power, confidence, and tapping into your real authority versus like protective armor that you put on. Your Patreon bonus this week is the Sacral Chakra one pager for your journal, your book of shadows, or as a quick reference guide for when you need it. That is available to all paid tiers, and those tiers start off at $3 a month and go on up from there with different options available to you. I want to shout out new paid Patreon members. I might be repeating the last two, and if that's the case, you just got double shouted out. So thank you so much. Number one, thank you, Sarah the Swamp Witch. I love that username. Let's connect because I'm here for Bog Witch Summer. Thank you so much also to Angela, Vic, and Des. Y'all are amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for all of the free Patreon members as well. Y'all are just super duper amazing. If you have only listened to my podcast, I want to invite you to go check out Two Witches Talking as well. And that is the podcast that I co-host with Morgan Moss, who is the founder of Ink Goddess Creations. And we have a lot of fun over there each week as well. So if you're wanting some more witchy content, you want to hear from me, hear from her, definitely check that out. And if you found me because of Two Witches Talking, thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. All right, y'all. Thanks again. I appreciate you. I appreciate the community that we are building and the connections that we are making with one another. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions. I'll have all the good links in the show notes. And until next time, please take care of yourself, take care of each other, stay hydrated, stay cool because it's hot as fuck. And as always, stay magical. Bye.